Good evening and welcome to the 19th of April 2021 meeting of the Licensing and General Purposes Committee. My name is Councillor Meir and I am the chairman of the committee. This meeting is being held remotely, is being live streamed via YouTube, and the recording of it will be available afterwards on our website. Councillors and officers are reminded to put their mobile phone on silent if they have one near them and mute your microphones when not speaking, as this will reduce feedback and background noise and save bandwidth to prevent loss of connection. If you are a member of the committee, please leave your camera on. I will first do a roll call to check that all the committee members who are expected to attend are present. As I say your name, please turn on your microphone and confirm you are connected. Councillor Bird.
Present.
Councillor Brown.
Connected.
Councillor Byrne.
Present and connected.
Councillor Coleman.
It's another double whammy, present and connected.
Councillor Drayson. Councillor Drayson. Councillor Field.
Present.
Councillor Harmer.
Present and connected.
I'm not actually expecting Councillor Kirby Green, but for the sake of the record, is Councillor Kirby Green here, please? Councillor Madeley.
Present.
Councillor Thomas.
Present, connected and nearly compos mentis.
Councillor Timpey.
Present.
Now, there may well be other members with us today. Could you please indicate in the chat facility if you're a member, not a member of the committee, but a member of the council, and you're here, and then we can make a record of the fact that you have attended the meeting. Thank you. Officers joining us today are Malcolm Johnson, the Chief Executive, Robin Venard, Assistant Director of Resources, Maria Benford, Human Resources Manager, and our Democratic Services Officer, that is to say Committee Clerk, is Louise Hollingsworth. Members of the committee will be making the decisions today by a named vote. Louise will call out each member in turn and they will either answer for, against or abstain. Members, please remember to turn on your microphone again at this point and please turn off again after voting. Please be aware there can be a time delay of around 5 seconds while a member appears on screen. Each item will be reintroduced as we get to it. Agenda item 1, to resolve that the minutes of the last meeting be confirmed as the correct record of the proceedings, to be signed by me at a later date. Is everybody agreeable?
Agreed.
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 There's no need for a vote for that. Thank you, that is carried. Agenda item 2, apologies for absence and substitutes. I believe that Councillor, is it Councillor Curtis cannot attend tonight?
That's correct. Yes, I've had an apology from Councillor Curtis.
And his substitute, Councillor Kirby Green, can't be here either.
No, that's right, yeah.
Agenda item 3, additional agenda items. Are there any? It seems there are no additional agenda items.
No, Chairman.
Thank you. Disclosure of interests. Members, please type your name into the chat to indicate if you wish to disclose an interest. And please state clearly if you have a personal and prejudicial interest, and state which agenda item it refers to. And do I see Councillor Dixon indicating? Councillor Dixon?
No, Chairman.
Are you indicating, Councillor Dixon, are you indicating you're declaring an interest?
No, I was just declaring I was present.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So in that case, I don't think anyone's declaring an interest. So Agenda item number 5 is the review of the local pay award, and I call on Maria Benford to introduce this item. Maria.
Chairman, it's Robin Venard. I've taken over just introducing this item on behalf of Maria. She'll pick up the second report for members tonight.
Oh,
but I thought just because it was relating to the pay award, I would pick this up for her. So this is a 2021 pay award report, and it's seeking members' views in terms of the negotiations with the Unison going forward. In terms of the national context, just to highlight in the report, the government have said that they expected generally a 0% increase in pay, but have said that for anyone earning less than £24,000 full-time equivalent for a year would expect an increase of £250 per annum. So that's the national picture. In terms of our neighbouring authorities, as I understand, most are looking around keeping to that national policy around 0% increase or a flat rate. Also picking up that we have made previously commitments to the living wage foundation rate, and the rate for 21-22 is £9.50, and that's an increase of 20p per hour. And just to confirm that all our officers are actually paid above this rate. Obviously, members are asked if they wish to continue to make that commitment. Just to highlight on recruitment, and I think Maria will cover some of this in her report later. Obviously, recruiting and professional staff does remain challenging for the council, and we have been proactive in terms of narrowing the gap in pay over the last few years, and therefore that's a consideration for members to have tonight as well. In terms of what we put into the budget, we allowed, when we put the budget together in February, a 2% pay award. And just for members' information, a 1% increase in pay would increase the annual budget by around £97,500. If you adopted the government policy and only having a flat rate of £250 for lower paid workers, then that would cost something in the region of £37,000 for the year. You'll also be aware that the spending review has been delayed once more by the government, and therefore it's sensible. We're suggesting just to agree a 1-year settlement for next year and not to go into any multi-year settlements at the moment until we have a clearer picture of what the government national funding for local government looks like. So I'm happy to take any questions, Jim.
Just for clarity, I think all members of the committee know this already. Rother is not part of the national scheme of negotiations, but we negotiate directly with our own staff side. I believe that's the position, is it not?
That's correct, Chairman. Yes, we have local pay conditions.
And locally, Wealdon and Hastings, they've had 0 rises, I understand.
This is what we understand. Obviously, I think it's still subject to the national negotiations, so that's what they would be anticipating based upon that government policy.
Thank you very much. Now, I see a couple of indications of councillors wishing to speak. Is there anyone who simply wishes to ask a question by way of clarification of anything that Robin Venard has said? In which case, I call on Councillor Field, please. Councillor Field.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Leonard, for your presentation. I have been present at many of these discussions over the years, and they always end up the same, going round and round in circles, trying to second guess a negotiation on the hoof, so to speak. I quite frankly am appalled at the prospect of not giving our staff any pay rise whatsoever. They have worked, well, they always work hard. This year they've worked hard under very adverse circumstances. And although we've got 2% in the budget for them, I think in view of the general temperature throughout the country, I think 1% would be a very fair way to reward our staff for this extraordinarily difficult year they have just gone through, with, of course, the £250 for the lower paid. I would also like to remind members that we did say last year, following a very protracted discussion, that we would have a working group to look at the whole system of pay in the council, not necessarily to change it, but so that those of us involved in setting pay rates actually understood the way it worked and how we came to the decisions that we do. And I understand from you, Chair, that the Chief Executive has offered to give a seminar to this group, not official training, but to inform us really how this happens. I think that would be extremely welcome. Then we could all really understand this issue. So I would like to propose 1% and the £250. But I do have another issue, and that is the fact that this pay award is linked to members' allowances. And I say this every year, and every year I'm told that I'm wrong, but I will say it again. I believe that in doing this, the perception to the public is that we award staff a pay increase in an attempt or in order to give ourselves an increase. And I think it is time to unattach members' allowances from the staff pay award. I think this because I think the perception is unfair. And also we need to remember that we are not staff. We are paid through the staff scheme as far as the payroll is concerned. But our position as members of the council, we are not employees of it. We are actually the council. So that long ramble is to say, please can we award 1%, take the £2.5 to £250 as well. Sign up still to the living wage, which is the 20p an hour increase, and consider how we disentangle our own pay rises from that of the staff. Thank you.
You're on mute, yeah.
Thank you. I have taken some advice about disentangling members' allowances from pay, and it would appear that that is not something that we can deal with tonight. It would have to go to the independent remuneration panel when it's reconvened towards the end of 2022 for the 2023 allowances, then to be considered by Cabinet and full council. And I'm advised that it's not within our remit tonight to deal with that, which I think will disappoint members. But I thought it perhaps better if we got that right rather than took an erroneous decision.
Well, if I can just do that, Chair, maybe then make sure it is minuted very clearly. And I don't know how you want to test the mood of the meeting, but I think some of us, if not all of us, would like that to be noted when it comes around to the next independent remuneration panel's meeting. Thank you.
I would be happy to put that to a purely advisory vote. I would like to, it would be useful to hear members' opinions on that particular subject. Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Chair. I think Catherine Field speaks almost as if it's my internal monologue coming out to the world there. It was very much. I agree with the sentiments. That sounded more worrying than it meant to. I think certainly if we can't disentangle members' allowances from staff pay increases now, and I think that's very much something we need to look towards doing, because I don't think we should be giving ourselves pay increases at a time when, for example, nurses are getting a real terms pay cut and all sorts of other shenanigans are going on nationally. I think could it be possible as part of whatever our recommendations are this evening that we recommend that the independent I can never say it, the IRP, the panel that looks at this, considers disentangling, I think was Councillor Field's term, considers separating members' allowances from the staff pay award, or certainly pausing it for a year or two until we're in a better financial position. And I'd like to reserve my right to speak in terms of the pay rise for staff, although I certainly agree with Councillor Field in principle that I think staff more than deserve a pay rise of some description.
Would you wish to indicate what sort of pay rise, if any, you're in favour of at this stage?
Certainly, I'm in favour of 1% at least, as Councillor Field has suggested. I'll wait to hear further discussion in case other figures are bandied about, but certainly 1% I'm in favour of.
Thank you. Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to agree with Councillor Coleman that 1% is absolutely the bare minimum, but I would like to make the case for going above the bare minimum. First, I'd just like to say a few words to members of the public who might be watching and who might be thinking along the lines. Now, look, we've suffered tremendously. We've had our wages cut. We might have lost our businesses. We've been put on furlough. Why should these people at the town hall who've got comfortable jobs, who've got secure jobs, why should they be securing a reasonable pay increase when we're suffering so much? It's not fair. And what I'd like to say to those people is something, first of all, about how wage increases work in practice. The first thing is that if you have competition for jobs, then if the wages go up in the public sector, they've got to go up in the private sector as well, so that the people concerned can get the staff they want. And so it doesn't work that if one goes up, the other goes down. If one goes up, it pulls them all up. The second point is that if employees are given extra money, they spend it in the private sector. And so the shops, etc., in Bexhill will be benefiting from that pay increase. The third point is about how the economy as a whole works. If the economy is in need of sustenance, then the right thing to do is not to deprive it, but to actually give it something. In medical terms, we no longer put leeches into people in order to make them better. We give them blood transfusions. When it comes to the economy, we seem to work on the opposite principle. But Maynard Keynes a long time ago demonstrated that that's not the way to go. So money into the economy raises the entire level of the economy. So that's what I would say to people who are saying, why give the public sector this rise? And my answer is because the private sector and the whole economy and rather economy will benefit from that. Now, just want to say a little bit about the context here. Public sector workers have suffered something like a 25% fall in the real value of their wages in the last 10 years. And as people here may know, Unison are trying for a 10% increase of the public sector workers to compensate for that. We're in a strange position because we have some of the richest billionaires in the world and also some of the poorest workers in the world. And we in Rother, we said we want to do something about it. Rother is a low-wage economy. We are a significant employer. If we increase our wages, we personally can do something about that low-wage economy. So I would want us to actually spend as much money on our employees as we possibly can do. And so that's why I say that the right thing to do, it's not to have the pay freeze. It's not even to have the pay frost, which is more or less what 1% amounts to. The reality is that at the moment, inflation is 0.7%. As the economy recovers, inflation is expected to rise. It's expected to rise to about 2.3%. So a 1% pay rise is going to be a 1.3% pay cut. And I don't think that's fair to our workers who have worked so hard. And so I think the way to deal with the economic reality of the situation is this. What we need is not a pay freeze. What we need is a green recovery. And so I think a 2% rise would be right for Rother, right for our workers, and right for the country. So on those grounds, I'd like to see us go for 2%. Stick our necks out a bit. Represent the people who work for us and give them the rise they deserve. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Gray, please. Before you speak, Councillor Gray, can I just can members please confirm they can hear? At least one member was suffering from interference at that point.
I can hear.
Everyone can hear. Excellent.
Yes.
Councillor Gray.
Well, I feel that I should have the same beginning as Councillor Coleman, that Councillor Thomas has just put in very much better words than I could possibly say. But I do agree with his argument, as I agree with Catherine Field. But I want to say that I feel very unhappy with only offering 1% for the very reason that this was offered to the NHS workers to widespread condemnation, and rightly so. And I feel it would be dishonest, if not hypocritical, for us to then offer the same amount to our workers. I feel we should be setting an example and actually offering the best we can for the arguments that Councillor Thomas has given, but also to show respect to our workers who have worked exceptionally hard, and also to maybe help the NHS workers. If everyone offers 1%, it doesn't give the NHS workers any argument. But if they see other workers getting 2%, maybe we can help them at the same time. Thank you.
I can see that Councillor Byrne is indicating. I think Councillor Timpey was first. Councillor Timpey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think this is a very difficult decision for us to make this evening, or recommendation rather. I'm looking at it more from the perspective that, you know, and I hear what Councillor Gray is saying regarding the hypocrisy of everything, but you know, if we are able to offer 1% and still maintain some sort of credibility with our staff, I think we should be considering it. I'm not averse to the 2% at all, and I'd like to hear what other people are going to say about that, because I reserve my judgment at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Byrne.
Thank you, Chair. We seem to be straying a bit into national pay awards and national economic policy. Now, I don't think there's a lot of chance of Rother's pay award changing national economic policy. However, I'm quite sure that politically active members in their various parties are going to, through their national organisations, do what they can, and I would support that. Back in Rother, though, Councillor Thomas made the point that if we give our staff more to spend, they will spend it in the local economy. That's a bit hit or miss. If we save on our budget, we can put that money into targeted benefits for the less able, for the people in housing need. We can target those benefits. So at a local level, I agree with Councillor Thomas that priming an economy, there's all sorts of good things about that if you're an economic theorist. But in a local sense, I would rather see that money targeted by Rother District Council and by our officers, because we know where the sectors in need are, and we can do the right things with the right people. So I'm not happy with 1%. I don't think anyone's happy offering someone a 1%. But in the context of the fact that other local authorities who've probably been less prudent than ourselves can't afford to offer anything, then I don't think we're seen as being niggardly with our pay award. So I'm happy to go with 1%, and I fully support the national economic arguments that are being made by my fellow councillors. But I think we've got to keep it to Rother. We've got to keep this. We have a pot of money, which is public money, which is money given to us by our council taxpayers and our business ratepayers, and we decide where we put it. And I think, as I say again, I would rather see that targeted by ourselves than just essentially scattergun approach for a bit of recovery and giving the officers more spending power. So I'm firmly with 1%. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I see Councillor Coleman is indicating. Is there anybody else wishing to speak? Yes. Yes, Councillor Harmer, you had your hand up instead of the chat facility. I missed you. Sorry.
I do apologise, Chair. Too many different meetings. I do agree with what Councillor Byrne has just said, and I'm sure we all feel if we had the money, we would love to give them a 10% pay rise, and they'd be worth every penny. However, nationally, it's recommended no pay rise, and our fellow councils in other areas are going with no pay rise. Therefore, I feel that a 1% is a good compromise. It is for 1 year. Let's hope that we can all recover and maybe be a little bit more generous next year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for allowing me to speak again. I think if Councillor Byrne was correct in the comment about viewing rather in isolation and not talking about national politics, then it's in our budget for 2%, and so surely the 2% would be the option we would go with. But we do have to look at this in a national context, and the fact is, central government, scandalously in my view, following a pandemic, have chosen to offer a 0% pay rise to their civil servants, and have more or less instructed us to do the same. And so I think anything above that is noble. I think 1% is very noble. I would support 2%, but I would like to know what the risks are in doing that, and perhaps Robin could maybe clarify, if we do go with 2%, are there risks? Are there risks to how central government will treat us in the future in terms of grants and things? Are there risks in terms of our budget at all? Although I know we did budget for 2%, has that changed? And also, before Robin answers that, I would like to suggest perhaps if we can't disentangle members' allowances from this meeting for this year, then perhaps members would like to get together informally outside of the formal council structure to put their pay rise into a pot to be distributed amongst local charities, or a scheme similar to that, or even towards the lower paid members of staff as a way to sort of give that money back. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. There's some questions there, and I think one of the big ones there is our own finances, what we can really afford. I know we've budgeted 2%, but reserves are diminishing, are they not?
That's right, Chairman. So in terms of the government, obviously we are local. We have our own local pay negotiations. So there's nothing legally, as far as I'm aware, that they can do to prevent us from granting such a right. Obviously, this come ahead of the spending review, if that takes place later this year and into next year. So whether it would have an impact upon that, I can't obviously say for certain whether it would or wouldn't. I can't give that assurance to members, but clearly we will become aware, or they will become aware of what we've done in terms of our pay settlement. So that information will be out in the public domain, and obviously that they will see that in the context of what they've been suggesting in terms of national pay policy. In terms of our own budget, yes, we have budgeted for the 2%, but clearly, as members will be aware, we have a significant financial gap in our budget going forward, and therefore, if we don't make the 2% award, that saving can go towards meeting some of the saving target, as well as what Councillor Byrne was talking about. That could be used to alleviate some pressure on the budget in terms of the future saving requirements the council has. And therefore, it could be argued that would then effectively save the equivalent of 2 jobs, I would say 2 to 3 jobs, in terms of £97,000 if we look at it in a very stark way. But clearly, that's not the intention of the council to lose staff through redundancies or compulsory redundancies. But clearly, with the size of financial gap that we have, there are some difficult decisions for members over the next year or so, and therefore any saving can help towards meeting that target. And would benefit the authority in terms of meeting that financial gap that we have at the moment. So thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Robin. I don't see anybody indicating now. Does anyone wish to express a view different? We've heard councillors speak in favour of 2%. We've heard councillors speak in favour of 1%. Is there any councillor who wishes to propose an alternative course of action? No? Does any other councillor wish to speak at all? No? In which case, do we have? Well, there are two likely outcomes ahead of us, either 1% or 2%. the alternative, does any councillor wish to make a proposition?
Chairman, we do have a proposal on the table from Councillor Field.
That's on the table.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that is for 1% and £250 at the lower end.
Yes, and to remain the link with the Living Wage Foundation.
Yes.
I would be happy to second that.
Thank you. We have a proposer and a seconder. Then that should be put to the vote. Before we proceed, I see Councillor Thomas wishes to raise a point.
Chair, can I suggest an amendment that we go to 2%, in which case the procedure would be presumably we take a vote on the amendment first, and then if the amendment is voted down, then no, it's not the usual procedure to vote on the amendment, and then it's either passed or not. If it fails, then the main motion is the motion debated, and if it succeeds, the motion is modified. I don't know. I should no doubt have read my constitution and know all the rules, as a certain person would be only too happy to remind us.
Chair, is that not a counter proposal rather than an amendment?
I would think it must be. Is there any advice available to us, Louise?
Yes, that would be a counter proposal. Because
I see.
So if
the proposal on the table is what was proposed by Councillor Field and seconded by Councillor Byrne.
So the proposal is for 1%, and only if that falls would we then proceed to put the 2%.
That's correct.
Yes. So Louise, in that case, I think we proceed to the vote on the 1%.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Okay, members, I'll call your names out alphabetically. Please respond with for, against or abstain. Councillor Bird.
Against.
Councillor Brown.
You're on mute, Councillor Brown.
Abstain.
What was that against?
That was abstain.
Abstain.
Councillor Byrne.
For.
Councillor Coleman.
Abstain.
Councillor Field.
For.
Councillor Harmer.
For.
Councillor Madeley.
For.
Councillor Mear.
For.
Councillor Thomas.
Abstain.
And Councillor Tempe.
For.
So that is carried, Louise?
That's 6 for, 1 against, and 3 abstain. So that's carried.
Oh, thank you all. A difficult decision, and I would say, in my view, a good one, because we do need to reward our staff, and they have worked hard during this pandemic, working in isolation at home, taking on new ways of working, and they really have kept the show on the road. And I am very, very pleased indeed to say that we have felt able to reward them with, it may be a small reward, but nevertheless a significant one. And I think it sends a message, which I'm sure is from all of us on the committee, that they've done well, and we look forward to working with them during the next year. Please pass on my thanks to them all. Thank you. Which brings us on to the Staffing Digest, I believe.
Okay, thank you, Chair. It's my pleasure to introduce the Staffing Digest report each year, and the one we've produced for this year is obviously covering from April 2020 through to March 21. Just wanted to draw your attention to a few points before I take any questions from any of you. I'd like to talk about the apprenticeships. That's been a great success for us. We currently have 6 apprentices working alongside us and studying. We have 3 previous apprentices which have secured roles with us following their successful obtainment of their apprenticeship. Point 11 about the training. This has been a very difficult year for us. We've always invested quite heavily in training for staff for their own development throughout their careers. So it's been a difficult year for us. Providers weren't geared up for the pandemic, so we weren't able to do the face-to-face training which we would usually do. That has changed over the year, and we have been able to invest in some online training and some training via Teams and Zoom as well, which has been very successful. The other area was the point 15 about the mental health. Obviously, taking that very seriously this year, all managers have been very committed to the mental health of their staff. It is very important, their welfare. We invested in training 7 mental health first aiders, but it's also important that we look after them as well, because it's quite a stressful. I'm one myself, and helping and assisting others can be quite stressful. So we do hold regular debriefing sessions with the mental health first aiders to ensure they're fully supported. Point 20, just to talk about this temporary staff restructure, which is in place for 1 year. That was creating a further head of service post in the neighbourhood services area. We will be looking at the staffing structure in more detail in order to deliver the corporate plan, the proposed draft corporate plan. And lastly, just wanted to talk about the policies. There's been no major changes in policy, but we felt it timely to get sort of an independent body to come along just to look at our policies and just to make sure that, you know, somebody separate to us is looking at them and just making sure that they are fit for purpose. So other than that, I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Maria. I think Councillor Field has a question.
Yes, I have, thank you. And it's about mental health, and I'm delighted to see that we do have mental health first aiders. But in that context, could I ask you, are they evenly spread amongst departments? And how does it work in lockdown when people aren't really meeting each other?
Yes, good question. They are evenly spread across departments. We purposefully chose that, and we have a good balance of female and male first aiders as well. How we've done it is we've reacted to concerns from managers where they've contacted us, and we've put the individual that they're concerned about in touch with a first aider by way of a welfare call. So they've put in a call to the individual just to check how they are and see if there's anything they can assist or identify they might need some assistance with. Sometimes people have contacted us direct. We've been publicising it quite widely that we are available. So people have contacted us all direct, generally via sort of a Teams call or telephone in the first instance. I personally have met with somebody in person during the sort of pandemic as well, just really because I was very concerned, and thankfully we were able to assist. So it was really good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Chair. More of just a quick comment, really, and just that I'm really pleased to see all of this is available to staff, especially in terms of mental health. I think it's really important that we look after our staff, and I'm really glad we are. And if there's anything that needs to improve in that area, I'm sure most councillors would be absolutely, glad to hear any reports in that regard. But it sounds like we're doing a good job of looking after our staff, and I think, thank you to staff as well, I guess, for persevering through this pandemic as everyone else has been, and may we go forward with a happy staff and a good and effective council.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Timpey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you for this report, Maria. It's very, very useful. I just have one question about the turnover of staff in your first in point 2. How does that compare to our previous year? I couldn't find the document from last year.
It is down on our previous year. And I'm currently actually going through an exercise with all councils where we share data. So I will know where we fit in with sort of East and West Sussex councils very shortly as well.
In your opinion, though, is it pretty normal?
Yes.
Do you think?
Yeah. I would say this is very normal.
Yeah, it just looked quite low to me and quite brilliant, really. That we haven't lost many staff.
Yes, I agree with you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thomas.
Hello there. Just want to say I was enormously impressed by this report, by its thoroughness and the sort of very positive messages in it. It's very, very good indeed. So that's great. It's great stuff. My particular interest is in mental health. And so I was especially delighted to see just how much the council is doing in that field. It's marvellous. And it's great to hear it's been highly effective as well. That's really great news. I'd just like to make a comment on it, which is just that possibly one way of extending it, because it's a little bit like when something goes wrong, we pick it up, you know. The first comment is, it's a really good idea, you may well be doing this already, to look at social prescribing, because there are tremendous numbers of ways of enhancing mental health through social prescribing, by prescribing activities, you know, like gardening and that sort of thing, social get-togethers, swimming, running, all these things, of course, which help to build up your mental health. But my other one is there something, could you take it a little bit further and start sort of positively building up a sense of resilience and robustness amongst the staff? So we don't just sort of catch it when they're falling, but we help to kind of, you know, make sure everybody's welfare and happiness is boosted as much as possible. But it's just great stuff you're doing already. Just a comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Harmer.
Just to pass on my sincere thanks to Maria and the team for the amazing work you are doing. Heartfelt thank you.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Maria. A very interesting report, and it is good to see that you and the higher management take these staffing matters so very seriously and with so much compassion and concern, and obviously councillors share that feeling with you, and it's pleasing to know that it's a good organisation to work for. It really does matter.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Unless there is anything else, I think we've reached the end of the agenda. I would just say on the pay issue, I'm sure that the minutes will reflect councillors' wish to receive the presentation on the pay arrangements and to investigate the link between councillors' allowances and pay. But that's going forward, and the possibility of a working group or some such to take the matter forward. Those are wishes, and I think strong wishes from the committee that we should go down that course. Councillor Field, are you indicating?
No, I was just twitching.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm sure I am too. So unless any other councillor has anything to say, I will close the meeting.